because it's not going to get better.
It's not going to get better.
Yeah, and so the person has to be, like my husband was saying, willing. If you go to counseling, you have to be willing. Both people need to be willing to want to make the relationship work and do what is necessary for the relationship to work. And if only one person is doing that, even though the other person is showing up for counseling, if they're just showing up to show up and they're not putting in the work, well then nothing is going to work. Counseling is only effective when there's two willing people who are working together on the relationship.
Yeah, if you go to counseling and just think that the counselor is going to tell your other half that they're wrong,
right,
it's probably not going to work out too well.
Right. Yeah. And in an abusive situation, a counselor should never be telling you to be more submissive to someone who's abusive. So I see this happen with women a lot, where a counselor will say, oh, well, just be more quiet during this time, or you should not.
Nobody should ever tell you that.
Yeah, right, babe?
Never.
Because the problem with an abuser is the abuse, and that always needs to be addressed because before anything else, because if it's not, then the abuser will continue using everything to keep that person oppressed in the relationship. And so if the abuse is not addressed, like in your case, it should have been evident to the counselor that this woman is abusing you mentally, verbally, even emotionally, by the way that she was gaslighting, taking zero accountability, withholding
Well, finally I told him.
love and affection and all of that, from you. I mean, that is abusive.
Yeah.
And
well, I finally told him, I said,
addressed.
there's no point in me coming back because it's not going to get any better, and we're not here. The only reason we went is so she wanted him to tell me that I was wrong, and he never did that, So I called him and said, look, I'm not coming back. There's no reason for me to come back.
No. Yeah, I did it. I ended up doing the same thing. I was like, I'm not coming back to another counseling session because I'm not going to continue being berated and belittled and bashed in counseling. That happens to me at home constantly. Why am I going to go pay money to continue getting bashed and abused, Yeah. It's crazy. And then they also give all their friends the story about
how horrible
their
partner
take
is.
on the relationship. Of their false narrative of the relationship. A lot of my close friends became even close. We grew even closer during that time, So I think when someone's truly unhealthy and destructive, it is destroying their relationships because those relationships were dysfunctional to begin with. They didn't have healthy relationships with their their friends. And so that's why they don't end up lasting. And so that's something that you'll notice with a narcissist is that all of their relationships tend to be very superficial. And because of that, the relationships that they did have prior to the relationship or during the relationship tend to not last. I remember my ex also making scenes, so that way he could act like he was the victim. And because he was making such a scene, it was believable. Like, it seemed like I must have done just horrible things to him for him to be reacting so dramatically upset, you know? Yeah. And then another thing that I remember him doing too was involving the kids in all of our drama, involving my family, trying to involve my friends, trying to turn whoever he could against me.
Yeah. Your kids should never be involved in your relationship.
No.
Ever. They shouldn't know anything about your relationship at all. And if you're having an argument, it should be behind closed doors where they can't hear it.
That's right.
And if you're bringing them into it, you're doing them a very, very large disservice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because that's really child abuse, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so they will go to any extremes, all extremes, to smear you in any way, shape, and form, legally, in the family, even work-wise, you know, to your work, everything. They'll go anywhere and go to any extremes to try and get their narrative believed. And true victims of abuse don't do that. Have you noticed that, babe?
Yeah.
Like, if you're the victim in a narcissistic situation, relationship, you're not exposing everything. You're actually scared to talk about it. You're the opposite of that. You're trying to keep everything under wraps. You're trying not to expose everything, you know, because it is humiliating, and you have a conscience about it because you actually have a conscience, you know, and care. And the narcissist just doesn't. They're just relentless, right?
That's
Just
true.
careless and chaotic and just, however it affects whoever is totally,
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. The whole time in the relationship, they're making it just nearly impossible to live with them, right?
Yeah.
Just making your life completely miserable.
Completely.